afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio, in Christ Radio. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. And I didn't tell Ernie this. Okay, this is a surprise to him. But Ernie, we're actually on worldwide television as well. We're on Abundance TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire.
Wow. Well, I've got some video I should send you then.
Yeah, send me some because we'll be glad to get that out there for you. We love television. Television happens to be my background. And so when we got the opportunity to go on ahead and go with this television station, we jumped on that chance. It's really good. So you're on two TV stations right now. I have Ernie Peters with me right now. We play his music at the station already, and he's with the Joyaires. And it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming in.
It's great to be here. I believe this is my first time, but I'm not new at this. I've been around a long, long time.
Well, let's talk about that. So how long have you been in the music world?
We have actually been as the Joyaires for 43 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we started out as a trio with my wife and her sister. And that, of course, that was in 79. And then my sister-in-law sang with us until 93, and she started having vocal problems. Here's the kicker of all that. They lived in North Carolina and we lived in Tennessee. So she would drive, of course, back then we all worked day jobs. But she would drive to Tennessee one week and we'd go wherever. And then we'd drive to North Carolina the next week and go wherever. And, but now it's just my wife and I. We had a young lady that was with us for almost 12 years, and she quit, and so we looked diligently for someone, and it's like the good Lord said, no, you two just do it. So Roger Talley is our producer, and we talked to him, and he said we'll make this work. So it's been a great thing. We're doing more dates than we've ever done. We're getting ready to go out for like 2 weeks. We don't normally do that, but the way the dates turned out this time, we're going to be out about 2 weeks. And so the Lord is just good.
That sounds really good. You mentioned North Carolina, and my husband and I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for about 9 years. I loved it over there. It was awesome. Used to host a television talk show there.
Yeah, we travel. We sing a lot in North Carolina. Of course, that's where my sister-in-law lives. Good and but we sing a lot in North Carolina. Matter of fact, we'll be there in the next couple of weeks. We're in North Carolina, back to Georgia, back to North Carolina. And just we're running the roads really hard. And my wife says we're getting older, so we need to slow down. But we're just doing more than ever.
Well, I'm hearing that's very common. We were all afraid when COVID hit. Is this the end of everything? But it seems like it's been a blessing in disguise.
It has. When COVID hit, we had 174 dates on the books, and that year we probably did a third of those, maybe. That being said, my wife and I both ended up with COVID, and then in August that year, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and we chose to do the proton therapy, which is a relatively new thing. I did 44 treatments in Knoxville, and as May of this year was my last visit with the doctor, and so far I'm 100% cancer free. God is good.
Good for you. Attitude has a lot to do with that too.
My
grandmother had cancer back in the 1960s, back when it was a death sentence. And so the doctor said, we're going to have to take out part of your jawbone. And she said, is that all you got to do? And he said, yeah. And she said, well, then take it out. And so she was a survivor, never came back. This is in the 60s.
Yeah. We are blessed. We really are. And radio folks have a big blessing to us too, what we do. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely. We love playing your things here. We love playing your music. So, and again, I'm just so glad to hear that you're not slowing down. Those music dates are just going through, and that's really good. Really is. So let's talk about your music. How would you describe your music? Are you Southern gospel? Are you country? Or you do
Well,
all of it?
we're Southern gospel, but on this last project that we did, and we sing I recorded a song that my dad passed away in '96. And this was probably the very last song that he and my brother and I sang together before he passed. It's an old Gene Autry song called That Silver Haired Daddy of Mine.
Oh, I know that song.
And right now, that song is number 7 in the country on the Scoops charts.
Okay.
And Roger Talley just brought out the best of that. And he's just, but for the most part, we're just, I would call us a family style Southern gospel. And we do, some of our stuff has big orchestrations, and not this last project, but the one before we cut We Shall See Jesus. And it is a big Nashville orchestration deal. And so we do everything, but basically we're a family style Southern gospel is the way I would describe us.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely the best. Do you play musical instruments?
I play guitar, but we sing with tracks for the most part. But if I need to play, I can. And just like this past Sunday, we were in Ohio for 2 dates. We were in Hamilton on Sunday morning and up in Columbus on Sunday night, and those folks ate up the guitar playing. So just how, and I do have a instrumental project actually, but so it just depends on what the need is.
Yeah, I love tracks. And too, they're made much better. My husband used to sing with his sister, and I remember them using the tapes. And if they ever got worn out, like it was a hot day and the tapes
Mm-hmm.
set in the car, they would make this little weird sound. And I was so glad when digital came out.
Yes, ma'am. Our very first time with tracks was when my sister-in-law passed away, and my wife Debbie said, "Ernie, we're going to have to go to tracks." I said, "I don't want to." She said, "Well, you really don't have a choice if we're going to sing." So we got a young lady to help us sing, and she could play the piano, but she didn't want to. So, but that was the day of tracks on cassettes,
Mm.
and most of the people who had problems with that was they would not, what we you and I know what I'm talking about, they would not cue the tracks. They would just rewind the track, and there might be a forever lead in before it got there.
I know.
So we sang at this little country church. Actually, if you're familiar with Sergeant York, World War,
My
uh,
favorite movie.
yep, uh, we sang at his home church and out in the country. Actually, that's where I'm from, in that county in Tennessee. And but I thought, man, these country folks are going to sit on us with these soundtracks. But I did have every one of them cued, and they never missed a beat. It was just like they just accepted it, and so. And actually, I almost hate to say this, but it lets me minister more by using tracks because I don't have to worry about, are we together? Am I doing this intro correctly? Are we on time? The track is always going to be right where, if you hit the right button, it's going to be what you want it to be. You don't have to worry about that.
I'll tell you what happened to us one time. My husband sang at a funeral once, and this is a church where it's a little country church, never been there before. And so we wanted me to work with the equipment, which is a bad idea anyway. You don't want me working with the equipment. Well, it was the old equipment, it was the old sound equipment, and everything was worn off. You couldn't see on off. You couldn't see anything on these. Well, he was back there waiting and looking at me like, "Are you going to turn it on?" It was only a couple of minutes, but it seemed like 2 hours to him, I'm pretty sure. So finally, I was going, I was afraid I would, hit the wrong button and it would make a real shrill sound. But it worked out. But anyway, I know what you mean about that equipment, but I like the digital stuff much, much better because if somebody wants you to sing a song again, you don't have to rewind it back
Right.
like you used to have to do a long time ago with tapes. All you got to do is flick a button. Now, are you also a songwriter?
I have written. My wife has written a lot more than me, and we've recorded some of her stuff. But actually, she tells me she has a stash somewhere that she started and just put back. And has not finished, but she wrote it. Her mother passed away in 1986, and she wrote a song then titled "A Touch of His Hand." And we still to this day sing that song. It's a very, very good song of hers. And but she just kind of put the songwriting aside, and of course we're on the road so much. But yes, we do write some.
At this station, we play a lot of the older stuff. And
Uh-huh.
those just I just like the meaning to them. We play a few contemporary things, but nothing like hard rock or anything like that. That that kind of sounds out there as well. But we do play a lot of the older songs, and there's just something about. And I like the old hymns. And so the church that we were going to, they had the Red Book, call it the Red Book, and
Oh
there were
yes,
other
ma'am.
churches that would call us to get us to teach them how to sing out of the Red Book. And I thought everybody knew what the Red Book was.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, us Baptist folks claim that book, but it's really put out by the Church of God down in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yes, ma'am. It is, and it's still printed on a printer that came from Germany. They
Oh,
still, and it's, I don't know how old, but it is old. And I know this, that if something breaks on it, they have to get a part from Germany to make the thing work again. But that book has been around a long, long time, and we love that. Matter of fact, we have a project called Songs from the Redback Hymnal, and so we're really aware of what's in that book.
yeah, that's a good. What are some of your favorite songs from that book?
Oh, I've told them, I've told our choir director at church when they put me in the ground, I want 312 to be sung as they leave the cemetery. And that is, I will meet in the morning just inside the eastern gate.
Mhm.
And that's one of my favorites. And of course, Amazing Grace, and just on and on and on. Number 50, and the Sweet Forever.
57 in the
Yeah,
Sweet
57 is
Hour of
amazing.
Prayer. And,
57 is Amazing Grace.
mhm,
Number 50 is in the Sweet Forever, I believe.
mhm.
And number 6 is I Want to Know More About My Lord, and just
Uh-huh.
on and on.
Mhm.
But we sing out of that book a lot at our church, and yeah, we like the old stuff.
In our neck of the woods right here in North Alabama, and it kind of seems like people are beginning to want to go back to some of that. I don't know that they'll want to do an entire service with the Red Book, but folks seem to really be interested in those songs. It's like they're new to a lot of the young folks.
They are, and actually, we were in a church a couple of years ago, and you hear this thing, oh, the young people don't like this kind of music.
They
And
do.
I don't know if you're familiar with J. Basil Mull. He was a promoter, blind preacher promoter in Knoxville, Tennessee for many, many years. Matter of fact, he has several songbooks that he had put together with, of writers. And we were at this church, and the pastor actually is a building trades teacher at the school. So all the kids know him and love him. But it was just blew me away. We went there to sing on a Sunday morning, and they had a choir full of people, young people, and they were singing out of J. Basil Mull's songbook, which is all Southern gospel music, and they were eating it up. So it's just a matter of I think of what you get used to and what people like.
I think so too. My grandmother was a sacred harp singer.
Hmm.
And so there was a song she used to sing Marilla's Lesson. And so I play the piano. So and I play by ear. And so she had me play Marilla's Lesson. But the only thing is I played it so fast. And she would say, now slow her down. Quit playing it so fast. It's not supposed to go that fast. But those are some good songs too.
Yeah, we we I'm sorry, we do more of the Southern gospel stuff than anything. And Sandy Bly, I don't know if you're familiar with her or not, but she is a great songwriter. We've got, matter of fact, our latest Southern gospel chart song was "Standing on the Word," written by Sandy Bly, and it went to number 33, I believe, in the Scoops charts. And we will have another one of hers after this new single. We have a slow down single this time called uh, I'll Thank You for the Grace. And it came to us right when I had the prostate cancer. And I've told this so many times. You hear of people being diagnosed with cancer, and you're with them, and you see that. But when the doctor comes in and he's talking directly to you, and he says, "Well, we didn't get the answer that we wanted. You do have cancer." It changes everything. So we got this song, uh, and it basically says, "When I can't thank you for the answer, I'll thank you for the grace." And His grace has truly been sufficient in this trying times. And it it was written from a different standpoint than someone needing healing. This preacher friend that wrote that song, matter of fact, his name is Leonard Fletcher. He wrote the song for the Inspirations, "I'm Not Ashamed." And he's just a great songwriter, great preacher. And he was going through something totally different than what I was going through, but the song still applies. Uh, his grace is still sufficient no matter what the situation.
I have Ernie with me right now. We're having a really good discussion on music. Is and music is just I always love music. Music can get you through hard times. It's just something about it. But I wanted to ask you too about the world we live in. It seems a little chaotic right now. And that we had COVID and then everybody had to wear a mask and just all the stuff was going on. Seemed like it turned the world upside down. A lot of folks got depressed during all this time. But are you seeing a little glimmer of hope out there? Are people looking for hope now? Maybe they hadn't looked before.
I think they are looking for hope, and I think things are changing just a little bit. My pastor is he constantly runs the roads, taking care of his folks, and another preacher friend done the same thing, and both of their wives told us, they got totally depressed because they couldn't visit the hospitals, they couldn't go talk with their people. And here's another take on that. We've ran into people just lately that their folks say, "Well, preacher, we know you'd like to come visit, but we just don't feel safe yet, and we know you're with a lot of people, so just call, don't come." But I think people are beginning to see. I think even the CDC has said now, just if a child is diagnosed with COVID, just put on a mask and let them go on to school. So I think, of course, there's always hope, but I think things are beginning to change up a little bit, and but it is so sad. My mother is 90 and 90 years old, still lives by herself, and she's had all the shots, but she got COVID. So, but she's doing well. I call her every day, talk to her every day, and but yeah, I think there's a glimmer of hope. But on the flip side of that, we were with a pastor a few weeks ago, and before this last episode of COVID came up, the Sunday before we were there, they had like 600 plus. Okay, COVID kicks up, and the Sunday we're there, they have about 300. So it's still, it's still there, and it still has, because people are so scared. And in particular, I'm thinking the older generation are so scared. But I think we just have to go ahead and go on and do what we do.
Mhm. I think so too. And I was impressed with the way people were jumping the hurdles. When it first hit, I mean, nobody knew what it was about. Nobody knew what to do. We all had what we thought it was and that kind of thing. So those were some things that had to be worked out. But, I think what was meant for harm, what I like about Christians is we'll jump hurdles and look for another way. And so when they started doing the Zoom and doing Facebook Live and things like that, I think a lot of people who had never been to church, maybe hadn't been to church in years, would actually tune in for a few minutes. I think that's something.
Oh yeah, anytime you can get the word out. I don't want to toot my horn, but I I post scripture every morning, every day. Sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 6 in the morning. But I post a scripture verse every day, and you would not believe the people we go to. Maybe they don't even comment or like or anything, but
Mhm.
they'll comment, I appreciate your scripture every morning. I depend on that. And if I don't, for some reason, I don't do one, they think, of course, they know I've had cancer, so they think I'm sick. But occasionally we'll get into some place that there's just no signal, so I can't do anything. But um, there is always hope, and the people are looking for people are looking for something. Matter of fact, we're in revival at our church this week, and preacher preached last night so wonderfully, and so it's just it's there's still a need for everything that we do, and I know music is changing, but a good friend of mine, if I named him, you'd know who I'm talking about, so I won't. But he said, Ernie, there'll always be some place for people like us to sing. Our music is not going away. There will always be a time, a place for us to sing.
I think so too. Trends come and trends go. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's trends. And a
Oh,
lot of
yes,
people will follow that trend, and then that'll be fun for a while. And then they get tired of it. They go back to the other way again.
yes, we just had some sliding glass doors put in, new ones, and they're building a new house right down the road from us, and we had just driven by, and the windows are black. And the guy came here and he said, "Oh yeah, that's kind of the trend now," but said that black's not going to last. Said it'll be just before long, it'll be back to the white windows. So just stay with the white, and you won't have to change. So, yeah, things. Everybody's looking for something new, but when in reality, the older stuff is what's going to be there from now on.
Oh, I think so too. There was a time, I'm pretty sure, that before Southern gospel came out, there was another music, that was out there. And so, I mean, a lot of folks say, well, you got to adapt to the change. What are your thoughts about that? I'm not talking about, anything drastic, but, you know, we have to be careful what we jump into.
Yes, ma'am. I think I'm just old school. I'm not too much. I'm kind of like even in everyday life. I'm not too much on change. Matter of fact, we were ate supper with some people last night, and they're getting ready to move, and they're excited about a new house, but they dread the move. So I just like I'm the old school. I like to dress like quartets used to dress, and I like to sing the old stuff. And that being said, I've got uh, two great nieces who are in college, and both of them are in music. One Belmont doing the what I call the highbrow violin and so on, and
Mm.
then I've got another one in ETSU in the bluegrass program. Well, I like bluegrass, but now I do not care for where bluegrass came from. I'm not, the Irish music just does not do anything for me. So, yes, I would agree with what you're saying. There's when Southern Gospel came along, there was probably some people who just said, I don't like that. Let's just stay with what we have.
Uh, I'm sure, but I like the old tried and true methods.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to worry about anything new to learn. I mean, it's already out there.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's talk to folks right now who are, they're looking. I don't know what to do. COVID may hit again. Who knows? We can't live our life on what ifs, can we?
I don't think so. I'm convinced that we just don't be stupid. I mean, if you know you've got it or know somebody's got it, stay away or stay at home.
Mhm.
But let's live our life. And I fully understand the live and the Facebook and the YouTube and all that stuff, but it's just not like being there in person. It's just simply not. We had our at our church. I think we were shut down about 3 times. We've had about 8 deaths, and we had our first parking lot service. Um, can't recall if it was Easter Sunday or Mother's Day. But anyway, we guesstimated that we had 500 people in the cars, and it was great. The preacher preached great. Actually, we sang, but it just was not the same. So I think we have to get back to some semblance of what used to be, get back to doing what we've done. And however, there will be some folks that'll just say, well, I'll just stay home and watch on YouTube and in my PJs and drink my coffee. So, but I mean, that's just a simple fact. But I
Ernie,
think we
I'm
need,
not good at that. I'm just really not. I mean, we had to do that for a while. And it was so funny. My husband said, you just can't sit still. I mean, I would look there, I've been watching television and the preacher was doing a really good job. It's just, I would look and go, is that a spider web right? I mean, you know what I mean?
oh yeah,
It's best to be assembly. It
my,
really,
my
for
wife,
me, it is.
my wife just said yesterday, she was talking to somebody about doing that. And she said, I think, well, he's making a good point right now, but I go turn the oven on so I can start dinner, you know? So it's just, you're at home. That's like folks working from home. That would be a chore for me because I would see so many other things other than my work that I would want to get done. But I think the quicker we can get back to some sort of normalcy, the better off we'll be.
I think so too. We've got about 2.5 minutes left in this segment. Time flies when you're having a good interview. It
Yes,
really
ma'am.
does. So, Ernie, what would you like to say to the folks who are listening to the news all the time and just totally depressed and they just don't know what the world's going on? We got to
Uh,
know what's going on, but is there too much of the good stuff when you listen to it all day long?
my, I think so. You'll think I'm crazy, but our big screen TV has been on 2 times since the last election. Now, my wife turns on HGTV and does some back exercises, but as far as sitting and watching the news, the most news we get is on our phone and Facebook. But I think you need to know what's going on. But I think in the long term, we just need to get back to trusting in the Lord, and what's going to be is going to be, and there's nothing we can really do about it. And as we've heard so many times, He is still in control. He has not relinquished that, and He's not going to. We may we may go through some tough times, but He is still in charge.
Well, a lot of us decided to have gardens and stuff like that. I think it's good for us. We should have
Oh
already
yes,
done that
ma'am.
a long time ago. Ernie, about a minute left in this segment. Where will you be and how can folks find your music?
Well, they can go to our website, just www.joyaires.com. And our last three projects are out on all the digital outlets, uh, iTunes and Apple and CD Baby and all that. So they can go there, and but you can go to our website or our you can just call us. My number is 865-250-6417. And we're like everybody else. We take credit cards, cash, or a good check.
There you go. Absolutely. Ernie, thank you so much for being on the show. It's so good to meet you.
Good to meet you, and thank you for playing our music. And just remember, when you don't get the answer you want, His grace is still sufficient.
Absolutely. Ernie, again, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for watching us. I know you could be doing anything else, but you're watching us. We definitely